Welcome to the Nubian Spiritual Warriors Astrology Podcast.
My spiritual essence is Walamu Mudada. And this podcast is provided for those who are seeking wisdom on their journey from darkness into the light. The
Kee2 Star Constellations. Astrology does not compel, it impels. The planets are energetic consciousness that communicate cosmic vibrations. Within these vibrations is information for our pineal gland, first eye, to decode. Cosmic connection. The vibrational frequency from planetary communication is not sent in English, Spanish, or any other language. It is sent in vibration, it is sent in cosmic vibrations to be decoded by your pineal gland. As a transformation station, the pineal gland breaks down the frequency into a form of communication that the consciousness can understand. In the process of learning astrology, there are some basic components or basic language that you need to be familiar with. So let's take a look at that. First thing is planetary symbols. You must become familiar with those planetary symbols and what they are communicating. Let's look at the first symbol with the, looks like a circle with a dot in the middle. That symbol represents the sun. Let's go to the astrological signs. And we'll look at that first symbol. That symbol or that sign represents Aries. Now we'll go to the astrological chart. On the astrological chart, you should be able to place the right planetary symbols and the right signs in the correct houses. Once you have done that, or able to do that, and it takes practice, we'll move to the astrological houses. There are 12 astrological houses, and each astrological house covers a certain domain or area of activity in your life. So the first house represents yourself, your self-identity, your self-image, anything pertaining, your personality, anything pertaining to yourself. The second house deals with values, possessions, and on and on and on. With practice, you'll be able to place at least one word in each house that represents the domain that it covers. Next, we move to the astrological patterns. Take a look at those astrological patterns. Those astrological patterns can communicate a host of information, and they help you take a look at a chart and interpret the chart rather quickly. Say, let's take a look at that first pattern called the seesaw. Okay, and just like it is said, the seesaw, the individuals has a type of personality in which they are trying to balance opposing ends of themselves. And just like a seesaw, one day they may be down. You know, you can feel that down, heavy energy from them. Then another day you might feel light, uplifting energy. Energies that are polar, are that in a polar opposite position. And their challenge within this lifetime is to bring balance to that energy. Next, we'll move to the astrological aspects. These aspects, or these symbols, indicate the form of communication that two planets are having with each other. So let's look at the first one called a conjunction, 0 degrees. And I like to use maybe 0 to 4 or 5 degrees as an orb. That means that the planets are right next to each other and they have a open and flowing communication because they're right next to each other. And it's like they're facing each other and talking directly to each other. So with that understanding, we'll move a little further into conjunctions. An astrological conjunction means that 2 or more planets are within the range of 0 to 5 degrees of each other. Normally, the planets are in the same house as well. Some astrologers use a larger range, such as 0 to 10 degrees. The closer the orb means the communication is stronger and clearer. The planets vibrationally communicate with each other. This communication is influenced by the sign, the house, and the element that the planets are in. A conjunction is the beginning of a journey or a story to be decoded. Sextile, and that's what it looks like if you pay attention to the graph. It's 60 degrees. The planets are 60 degrees from each other. An astrological sextile means that 2 or more planets are 60 degrees from each other. Normally, the planets are 1 house away from each other. The tighter the orb to 60 degrees means the communication is stronger and clearer. The planets vibrationally communicate with each other. This communication is influenced by the sign, the house, and the element that the planets are in. A sextile provides information about the status of the journey or story being told. Square. An astrological square means that 2 planets are 90 degrees from each other. Normally, the planets are 2 houses away from each other. The tighter the orb to 90 degrees means the communication is stronger and clearer. The planets vibrationally communicate with each other. This communication is influenced by the sign, the house, and the element that the planets are in. A square represents the first sign of tension or conflict along the journey or story that began with the conjunction. Now we reach the point of tension or conflict. The communication is not as flowing as it was with the conjunction or with the sextile. One planet has a certain vibrational or one thing in mind, and another planet has a different thing in mind. So they have to come to an agreement or understanding vibrationally. Trine. An astrological trine means that two planets are 120 degrees from each other. Normally, the planets are 3 houses apart. The tighter the orb to 120 degrees means the communication is stronger and clearer. The planets vibrationally communicate with each other. This communication is influenced by the sign, the house, and the element that the planets are in. A trine provides flowing communication between the planets. A trine can also indicate the progress of the journey that began with the conjunction. So when the planets are in a position of a trine, the communication is flowing. It's much more easier. They have moved beyond the tension that was present at the square. Opposition. An astrological opposition means that two planets are 180 degrees from each other. Normally, the planets are in opposite houses, as you can see in the diagram. The tighter the orb to 180 degrees means the communication is stronger and clearer. The planets vibrationally communicate with each other. This communication is influenced by the sign, the house, and the element that the planets are in. An opposition represents the second sign of tension or conflict along the journey that began with the conjunction. Opposition. Now we want to take a look at the elements of manifestation. We're talking about fire, earth, air, and water. They also influence communication and vibrational frequencies. So let's take a look. First, the fire signs. The fire signs are Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo. Astrologically, they would be set up on the chart as Aries, Leo, and then Sagittarius. Fire signs have the characteristic of action, which relates to its element, fire. So the key word for a fire sign is action. Next sign is air. The air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. A key word for the air signs are, or a key word for the air signs is talkative, gregarious. Air sign. Now, fire and air signs normally form a sextile because the energy is compatible. And if you think of it in a form of chemistry, fire needs air for it to exist. You take away the air from the fire and the fire dims and eventually will go out. So fire and air signs are normally form a sextile because the energy is compatible. If you take a look at the graph to the left, you'll see there's basically 60 degrees from each other. And that's a flowing energy, and that's a flowing element. Now we're going to the earth signs. The earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Key words for the earth signs are stability and security. Those are primary traits of earth signs. Next signs are the water signs. The water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Key word for the water signs is feelings or emotions. Now, similar to the air and fire, earth and water. Earth and water normally forms a sextile because the energy is compatible. So those two energies usually flow together, earth and water. And on the chart, they're normally 60 degrees away from each other, which is also indication of flowing energy or open communication. Now we're going to talk about a square. Air or fire normally squares earth or water. If they are in the same hemisphere, when we're talking about looking at astrological chart, either the upper hemisphere or the lower hemisphere, either the hemisphere to the east or the hemisphere to the west, the energy doesn't flow together. See, so when they're forming a square, usually air or fire will square earth and water, will form a 90-degree angle, similar to the graph that you see in the upper left corner. And if you think about it elementally, water can put out fire. See, so if you think about it in the terms of elements, then you can see that it doesn't flow together. Water or fire prefers air because it fans the flame, but water will put it out. Earth will put out fire as well. So if you think about it in those terms. Now, what's interesting is the same elements are trine. They communicate quite well. So fire is trine to fire. So in the upper left hand, you see the symbol for Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. They all form a good trine, or a trine is a good flow of communication. So they communicate with each other quite well. You know, it's often said like attracts like. fire is trying to fire. Right below that, you see air is trying to air. So there you have the symbols for Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. They have the same traits or the same characteristics. Say if I went back to fire, trining fire, they understand action. All three of them understand action. If you go down to air is trying air, they like to communicate, they like to talk. Going over to earth is trying to earth. The signs you have there is Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And the common characteristics is foundation or stability, security. They all understand that. Going down to water is trying to water. The signs that you have there is Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces. They all appreciate a communication that has feelings to it, that relates to emotions. So a lot of times they can pick up on emotional energy more so than anything. So they may not pay close attention to what you say, but they're paying good attention to how you say it, the feeling that you put into it. Now, another note, air and fire can form an opposition. They can form a sextile, but they also can be opposite of each other, meaning they're creating tension. Because if you have too much air, it may blow the fire out. Air and fire can form an opposition if they are in different hemispheres. Say, for instance, one of the elements is in the upper and the other one is in the lower hemisphere, like the example that you see there. Or one is to the eastern hemisphere and the other one is to the western hemisphere. They're normally forming opposition, and they need to be balanced. The same thing is true for earth and water. Earth and water can form an opposition if they are in different hemispheres. Say one is in the upper hemisphere and the other one is in the lower hemisphere. Or one is to the eastern hemisphere and the other one is to the western hemisphere. They can form an opposition. And again, they need to be balanced.
Assume the position. It may be with your feet flat on the floor and your spine erect. It may be in a yoga position. Whatever position you assume, your spine is erect. Now gently close your eyes, for you are going on an inner journey. this inner journey begins with the breath. So as you inhale, earth energy comes up through the center of your feet, through the center of your body, to the top of your head. And on exhalation, it showers out the top of your head like a fountain, returning to the earth. Again, on inhalation, earth energy comes up through the center of your feet, through the center of your body to the top of your head. And on exhalation, this energy showers out the top of your head like a fountain.
Kee2 star constellations. Kee2 star constellations is a family affair. As a family or an individual, learn the ancient science of astronomy, astrology, numerology, and sacred geometry. The lessons are basic and engaging for all ages. They are insightful and empowering. Kee2 star constellation.